Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Gloomhaven Grand Festival. Thank you for joining us today on Gloomhaven TV. My name is Price Johnson, Chief Operating Officer here at Cephalofair Games. We appreciate you coming back to join us today. We are joined by one of our resident sculptors, Sarah Dahlinger. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to introduce you to our community and our backers and have them learn a little bit more about you. I hear you've been working on a small project, or was it a mini project, or uh, something a little small, right?
just it's a small thing, It's
Yeah,
one weekend, That's all it was.
one single weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah.
easy. Yeah, so no, Sarah has been an immensely, just a tremendously huge contributor to the miniatures project, taking on the majority of what I'd call our creatures, right? Doing a lot of creature work, which, as I understand, Sarah, is kind of your background, right? Is doing monster and creature artwork, and
Yes.
something you've been doing for quite a long time. Can you tell our backers a little bit more about your background and kind of how you got started in doing sculpting or just creature work in general?
Sure, sure. So I worked in studios for about 10 years before I went to, and got a broad base of skills. And then about 2016, I decided I was going to go off and do a freelance career and focus entirely on creature design. And pretty much ever since then, that's all I've been doing. I've done illustration and sculpting, like both in the miniatures, which would be considered like, I don't know if you'd consider that low res, but like lower detail, and then like the really high res, like photo visualization stuff. But essentially, since 2016, I've been only making creatures, so it's been awesome.
Very cool. And is it primarily sculpting? Is it artwork? Is it a little bit of both? Talk to us about like what different media forms does your creature work take?
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of do everything. I can do from the very, very beginning, like a 2D sketching to like an illustration to 2D concepts to 3D concepts, because different. So I work in games production, so that's like video or TV, and in books. So every client sort of has a different need. Oh, and for video games, so for video games, they might need something like a quick 2D concept, and then eventually they might need like a 3D render. You folks need 3D, like, but print ready miniatures. So that's sort of a different sort of sculpting. And then if you're working for like a TTRPG thing, like I've been working for Dungeons and Dragons and Paizo and stuff, they want like a more illustrative look. So I work with primarily Photoshop and ZBrush, and sometimes just traditional media as well, to get whatever the client needs.
Very cool. And what is it about creatures, like monsters in particular, or I've seen some of your work and we're going to talk about it here in a little bit, but I know you do a lot of merging of different creatures and
Yeah.
different sort of biologies. So where did that sort of seed get planted with you? Where did you get that fondness for the weird and the sort of
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So back in the day, my mom had this ancient black and white TV,
Hmm.
and I learned how to operate it when I was 2. And I figured out how to use the dials to switch to PBS, and I used to watch the nature documentaries. So I
Oh
was
yeah.
like this little 2-year-old kid that like figured out how to use the rabbit ears and the dials on this ancient TV in order to watch nature documentaries. And my parents were like, "Well, she's 2 and she's watching nature documentaries, so let it ride." And it just sort of, that was the beginning. And I spent a ton of time hiking and camping and living outside as a kid. Like my family was very much so into being out in nature, so it just sort of always has been part of my life, and I've always loved nature and animals. And then that became like biology and anatomy as I got older and learned more things, and it sort of just all fell into place. Because also like I grew up with like Tolkien was like my bedtime story from my dad, and so like you get introduced to fantasy, and then you get introduced to monsters, and then it sort of just all kind of marries together, and you make yourself a creature artist, I guess.
Very cool. And I can't help but I read a little bit more of your bio before we got here, and I know you grew up in sort of the mountains or wood area, and so a lot of
Yeah.
sort of fauna around you, right? Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my parents they've always lived in sort of rural areas, and the area that I was in was becoming less and less rural. So what they did was they got like this little piece of land, and they put a camper on it that was like this most broken thing ever. We didn't have like any TV, we barely had a radio, we didn't have indoor plumbing. We did have electricity, just a bit. And we used to live out there like all summer long. So essentially I was just like this little wild being that they just would like put outside into the woods. And and it was fantastic though. As a child, I knew everything. Like I knew, like, if I sit here at 10 p.m., I will be able to see a fox. Like that's how well I came to know the forests around me. Or like, if I go to this rock at noon, I'll be able to see the snake that lives under it. So it's like the love of animals and nature is like very, very deep with, like, very deep in me. Like, it's been there for forever. So being able to express that, and express my love for fantasy and sci-fi through my work is just, it's an awesome career to have.
Yeah, no, it's always a dream, right? When you can align that passion with the profession and make it work. I know sometimes that doesn't always work out long term for folks. Would you say that your passion for biology, for creatures, for monsters has only grown, or has it steadied? What would
Yeah,
you
I
say?
think it's only grown, and I'm gonna be 40 next year, so I think we're good. It's been steady, It's I think if I was gonna waver, I'd have wavered by now.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's really exciting to hear, and
yeah,
I mean, it definitely shows in the work that you've done for us. It's been really exciting to see, the movement in the creatures, the biology, some of the choices made, from posing to, how they're tentatively engaging with the creatures around them and stuff like that. So I'd love to take a look at some of the models that you've done specifically for this campaign. So let's have Ruel here, our backstage producer, pull up some of your work, and maybe if you don't mind, just kind of one by one taking us through these creatures and telling us what were parts that you really enjoyed working on, what were some more challenging hurdles to get over.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
Inform us, because I know very little about the sculpting process, despite the fact that I'm in charge of producing them and working with a lot of our sculptors. So walk us through kind of some of your techniques and things like that too, would be great.
Sure. So this one that's up on the screen now, and forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce anything, um,
We have
because like I just read it,
yeah.
um, but for this one, I really liked it because the reference that I got wasn't as super refined. So
Mhm.
I was able to sort of embellish it a little bit more. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is when you get a 2D concept, it's very common in 2D concept arts that they don't necessarily have to really figure out the creature anatomy or like
Mhm.
really nail it down. But if you're going to make a 3D sculpt, you have to know that inside and out, so the sculpt actually looks like it could be a real thing. Like you're gonna actually hold this sculpt, so when you hold it, I want it to feel like it's like a real creature in your hand. So with this creature, I really liked being able to inject more realistic elements into the form than what is just present in the 2D concept. So that was cool. Oh, and I think the armor too. That was really fun to do because I believe the original version didn't have armor, and then I had
Right.
to try and figure out how you would armor this. It's like this. It's kind of like a bird dinosaur thing. So I was
Yeah.
kind of thinking like, I wanted to be able to still move and to still function and to still be able to engage in combat perhaps, but also be protected. So that was a fun
Yeah.
challenge to have.
Yeah, and if I'm probably gonna mess up the pronunciation here, but I do have this one recorded as the Great Archanaudal, maybe.
That's yeah, like that's what it's written as. So
How it's written.
yeah,
If Isaac Childress is in the chat, he can certainly confirm. But this is one of the summons belonging to the Great Archanaudal is one of the summons belonging to Angry Face or Spiky Head, depending on your preference of fan name for that unlockable class. So,
nice.
all right.
Oh, so this one's the battle boar, and I loved this one because I thought it was super fun to do a pose. Because a lot of times when people make miniatures, they make them very static, and I guess it's a very safe decision to make something look very static. But because we're working in ZBrush and we're not working in clay anymore, I wanted to push as far as I can to make every miniature look as if they are moving because they're supposed to represent something that's alive.
Right.
So, and potentially something that's alive and doing something cool. So if this is a battle boar, it should be fighting. So I wanted to give it sort of an aggressive pose and show it mid motion rather than just standing around. And doing that I thought was super fun.
Yeah. And this one belongs also to the summons set. Also our angry, spiky-headed friend. So I love this one.
This one was fun. The decoy.
Yeah.
So when I read the description of it, I was like, it's doing what? It's doing what now? And so it was neat because I made the little bot, and it's fun to make little bots. And
Yeah.
then I took the concept art of I think it's the Tinkerer, and I cut it out, and then I like kind of like pasted it onto. It's sort of like digital clay. You like paste it onto digital clay, and I like cut out around it, so it's like actually as if someone like took a piece of cardboard and like cut out around it, and just doing that was like I was kind of chuckling the whole time. Like I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And I don't even know the character, but I kind of like him now because like whoever's gonna do something like that, I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, this is by far one of my favorites, just because the novelty of having a mobilized cardboard standee is just too funny. And so, especially with the changes made to 2.0, right? The fact that we have new artwork for these classes, for the Tinkerer class, this is also, it plays as a nice little throwback to that first edition art piece of the Tinkerer. So really a fan that we're keeping that there, and that gets to persist. So that's a fun one.
Ooh, that one's nice. So
Energy.
this is the Elder Drake, and that was in, you know what, believe it or not, you folks are the first people that asked me to sculpt a dragon for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've sculpted all sorts of stuff, but you're the first dragon. And I'm a firm believer that when an artist is a baby artist, and we like to say that in their larval form, they are either horse girls, wolf girls, or dragon girls. And I was a dragon girl. So this is like 10-year-old me's little dream come true, to be able to, sculpt the dragon that's actually going to be printed in the game. And one of the things I love doing is sculpting dragon anatomy, because I feel very passionate about how dragons need to have really big shoulders and like really powerful chests in order to support their wings, and have the wings connected to the shoulder girdle and whatnot. So being able to take that concept and further inject realism into the muscular skeletal sculpt was really great and very fulfilling.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased with how this one came out, and it's by far the largest of all 600 miniatures. This is the big one. This is the centerpiece.
Oh, that's cool.
And so this is in the main Gloomhaven base starter set for the miniatures line. Yeah, great work there. Okay, I keep saying this about everyone, but this is also one of my favorites, easily.
Oh my god, how do you say that? Is it Garaliv? Is that how you say it?
Cephalofair, Isaac Childress, you're in the chat, but I believe this one is the staunch Garalev.
Okay.
Yeah, pronunciation.
So that one was an absolute blast because, again, I had a little bit of concept art, but I had the freedom to invent some of the rest of the creature. And also, I want to say I was able to invent some of the stuff that it's carrying. So it was a really nice way to sort of like kind of stretch your wings a bit, and to feel out the creature, and fill it out, and then to like think of like equipping it was probably the most fun part, because I wanted it to have like a nice feeling. So like he didn't really look super aggressive, so I wanted to make him sort of like slow and plodding and give him like big stuff so he would look really big and strong. And yeah, I just really liked making that one.
Yeah, no, it came out great. This is probably the one that I'm looking most forward to painting, just because of all the things you put on it. Like that looks tremendously fun to paint different patterns on the fabrics. And
that's one thing that I do try and think of, because I do paint miniatures. So when I sculpt, because I paint miniatures as well, I try to make stuff that people would like to paint. So that makes me really happy that you said that, because I was totally thinking that. I was like, yeah, and you could make this red.
Well, actually, Amino Acid Rain in the chat was just about to have us ask you that exact question. So you beat us to the punch. And
okay.
You paint your own miniatures fairly regularly. Is that something you enjoy?
No, not my own. I paint Warhammer minis, but the Of the miniatures I have sculpted, only one company has sent them. I sculpted something for Monty Cook Games, and they just sent them back to me. So I actually just primed them. So we're on
Okay.
the cusp of me being able to paint my own miniatures.
That's exciting. Well,
Yeah.
you've got 600 something plus miniatures coming your way from Cephalofair. So
Yes.
yeah, get those paint sets and paintbrushes ready. But no, that's great. And so yeah, let's take a look here. We've got the Leaper on
Oh
screen
god.
now.
So the leaper was really cool because I'm not usually and I usually tend towards organics, but this is like a
Yeah,
mechanical one. But I just loved how the design was a very organic, inorganic thing.
yeah,
And it was really fun to draw, to figure out how like the cables and the pistons and like the armoring would go, and then to try and make it still look organic, but
mhm.
it's a mechanical thing. And yeah, that was just a really fun challenge, and I like how it came out.
Yeah. No, those like, and that was something I wanted to ask you is how different is doing, you know, more bioforms versus like mechanical, engineered type robots and things like that. Is that a huge deviation in terms of skill sets and just the mindset you have to be in? I think you did a great job here. Like the curvatures, just the shape of those legs, like it looks like muscle work, but you look deep enough at the detail work and you're like, well, that's machine though. So
Yeah, I will say the so hard surface sculpting and organic sculpting are kind of two different fields, but a lot of artists know both, but a lot of artists are stronger in one than they are in the other. So I can do both, but I'm definitely feel more confident in organics than inorganics. But I've been learning how to get more and more confident with my hard surface sculpting because of cool stuff like this. Because like if I'm gonna make a character and I want to put armor on it, well, I need to know how to do the hard surface sculpting, stuff like that. So you kind of have to learn both, but I would definitely say in general, an artist, it depends on how your brain is set up. Like I know, like I love bots and mechs and stuff like that, but I can't like really just like picture them and like just riff on them. But I could like riff on just making a creature.
mhm.
Um, and so like you kind of start with one, and then you'll sort of bring the other one online. So I'm in the process of doing that. I'm starting to feel more comfortable with mechanical stuff nowadays, but I used to be only organics. But that's not really great because then I didn't have access to making cool armor or cyborgs or stuff like that, which I want to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good insight because I would assume that there's different, right, like thought processes and techniques that need to go into that. And so it's interesting to hear you call it like a different side of the sort of profession, I guess, right? Doing
Yeah.
doing hard surfaces versus organic. So that's definitely something I'm learning more about. Uh, what are some of the most common techniques? Like, can you talk to us about, what's in your toolkit as a digital sculptor? Like, what sort of programs, softwares are you using? What does sort of your workflow look like in terms of staging? Like, how does it go from concept? Do you do anything in 2 dimension before you even get to 3D? Take us from like concept to final, factory submitted mold.
Sure, sure. So if it's my work, it depends on what it is, but for the most part, I always start off with like a 2D thumbnail sketch, and I might even bring it up into like a full concept piece. And or like if a client could provide me with concept piece. Once I have that, then you can just jump in straight into ZBrush and start sculpting. And there's a million different ways to start a sculpt in ZBrush. Like you can just start from like a little ball of digital clay and push and pull it, or you can make an armature out of these things called Z spheres. They have there's like all these things. Like it'll be like word salad. Like you can use a thing called Dynamesh to like bridge two like forms together and stuff like that. It's all, but basically you use ZBrush to sculpt the forms. And then once you're in ZBrush, it's kind of like using digital clay, and all of the brushes within ZBrush mimic traditional sculpting tools. So like if you know anything about traditional sculpting, you have like a brush that kind of like can rake the clay away or smooth the clay out or whatever. So there's brushes within the program ZBrush that mimic those things, and you
Okay.
use that to kind of carve and sculpt the digital clay.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so that's something you've been working in for how long now?
I started working in ZBrush in 2009, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, so tons of experience, and clearly shows through on the project. So we hope everybody's taken a long look at the very long list of miniatures that we have
There's so
included in this
many.
project. You're going to see so many tremendous ones done from Sarah and our other sculptors here. So we really hope everyone takes the time and takes a look at those. We have more reveals coming too that aren't even on the page yet. So really excited to share those as they continue coming through. But Sarah, one thing I wanted to make sure we capitalized on, I heard you mention your other work. As I understand, you have a live crowdfunding project right now, right? About
I
35 hours
do.
left on the clock.
I do. Yep. So
Yeah.
we have 35 hours left to go, and my project is called Astrofauna Expeditions,
Great.
and it's a book that has 5 short stories, and it's each chapter is from the point of view of a different xenobiologist, like so a space character,
Cool.
and they go to a new planet, and there they discover different creatures, and when they're on the planet, they all have different sorts of adventures.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So this is live over on Kickstarter. It looks like we've got just a little over a day and a half left to go. So definitely recommend checking this out. I'm a follower of Sarah's work on social media, and so I've been seeing these weird creatures pop up pretty much every day, and I can't get enough. It's really great. So if you love creatures, if you love monsters, if you love a little bit of sci-fi biology, we definitely recommend checking that out, and we'll provide a link down in the comments of the video once this is posted as well, so you can find that and follow that. But something else we'd like to do, Sarah. Sarah and I, you and I were talking a little bit this morning about what we could do together just to create a little bit of excitement around both of our projects here. And so we've got an art piece we'd like to share on screen here, Ruel, if you don't mind pulling up. That is there we go. This is the
Yeah.
Savas Kivak. It is an animal often used by the Savas to carry around rock and stone that they're carving and moving around. And so something we would love to do is work with Sarah to sculpt this before the campaign ends to share with our backers. And what we'd like to announce is that any of our Wave 5 miniatures backers today that also happen to check out and back Sarah's project, even for $1, we would love to professionally produce and include a free miniature of this Kivak, the Savas Kivak, in your order. So again, any of our Wave 5 backers, if you happen to go support our sculptor Sarah Dahlinger here on her Kickstarter project, Astrofauna, will include that free Kivak miniature in your pledge free of charge. So really appreciate her support on this project, and we really appreciate your support on hers as well. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming out today. Is there somewhere that we can catch you next, convention-wise, stream-wise, anything like that?
Oh yeah, so I'll be at Gen Con and Dragon Con this year, and if you want to watch me stream, it's the same. Just look for Astrofauna on Twitch. You can find me pretty much anywhere on socials as Astrofauna, and yeah, I'll be right there. I'm going to be streaming actually tonight for the Astrofauna Kickstarter, and yeah, I'm trying to do a regular stream like every Wednesday, but I will definitely be at Gen Con, and I'll definitely be at Dragon Con if you folks want to come and get to know each other and chat.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be in Artist Alley then at Gen Con? Is that where
I
we'll
don't
find
know.
you?
I'm a vendor for the
You're a
first time.
vendor. Oh,
I
heck yeah.
am. Yeah, I'm actually like the brand Astrofauna now, which is kind of exciting. Yep.
It's huge. That's awesome. That's
Yep.
really exciting making that.
Yeah. So I'm in the Entrepreneur Alley? It's like in the little corner. Yep. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at this year.
Awesome. Well, I know we'll be sure to stop by and hang out and say hi and see you, but we'll make sure our backers do as well. So yeah. So anything else you wanted to just plug or mention here before we part ways today?
No, I just thank you so much. And as far as my Kickstarter goes, we're trying to get to the stretch goals. We've just unlocked 5e D&D stats for all the miniatures and NPCs mentioned, and we're trying to get to a playable D&D class, which is a xenobiologist. So that's where we're going, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, anytime. Thank you so much, and please go check out Astrofauna, and thank you everybody for joining us again today on Gloomhaven TV. Please stick around. In about half an hour we will be meeting with the Army Painter and talking about some exciting things we have in the works with them. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming by, Sarah, and have a great